Well, as of right now, Tram, the only thing we've seen as far as law enforcement presence out here today is a deputy who has now been staged at the Guthrie home around the clock out of protection for the residents, and that was a request of the Guthrie family. We have not seen any investigators come back to the property in the last 24 hours or so, but we know that the Pima County Sheriff told us that we can expect to see investigators conducting follow-up investigations both at Nancy's house and at her daughter Annie's house today and yesterday. That's something we haven't seen yet, but something we are preparing for.
You know, and as soon as we did get that information about this coming out, these images coming out, we saw just this media frenzy. I mean, media is jam-packed on these very narrow, curvy streets here. And as soon as we started to get word that the FBI was going to be releasing these images, you just saw everybody start to run to their cameras and try to get this information on. So this is certainly the most activity that we have seen out here. We've been covering this for 10 days now. We've been out here in this neighborhood, and this is the most activity that we have seen. But it's such good news for these neighbors because, you know, the sheriff's office has been saying that they want people to look at their cameras, they want people to look for anything suspicious, but we really didn't know what that was. And so now these neighbors in this community actually has something tangible and something that they can look at and actually go off of and maybe help move this case along.
Yeah, and like they mentioned earlier, this is such a dark area at night.
Yeah.
There's no street lights. We still don't know if there was any sort of vehicle involved in this, but we do now have at least some picture of a person who was in this area at the time. And another thing that people have been kind of going back and looking at the doorway, because we know that camera where these images appear to come from is still missing. The sheriff's office told us earlier this week that they never located that camera that was taken off of the wall there, and so unclear if the person who is in these images took that camera with them. We know that there were also more cameras around the house as well, so hopefully they are working to get those images as well.
You know, another thing that I told Gabby before we came on when we started to get those images is that it reminded me of the case with Luigi Mangione when he is now accused of assassinating the United Healthcare CEO. When those pictures came out, it was just eyes. That's pretty much all that it was, but that was enough that somebody in a McDonald's was like, you know what? I think I recognize that guy, and it cracked the whole case. So maybe something like that, although you don't think that these images are much or you don't recognize the person, somebody out there quite possibly will.
Well, and even if he wasn't, or this person wasn't wearing that mask still after leaving this area,
Right.
Perhaps they can connect the backpack, the clothing, anything that, you know, may lead them to suggest that this is the person who was at Nancy Guthrie's home that night.
And to show us because you have a great perspective. You're out in the street. Can you take your camera and zoom in as much as you can on that archway just behind you? Because that's the same archway we're seeing from the inside, correct?
Yeah, and this is also the place where Nancy
That's right.
Guthrie's blood was found in that front porchway. So we're not exactly sure how it got there. But yeah, zoom in and just show us kind of what you guys can see from this perspective. And also just hearing from you after learning what just transpired or what did transpire there 10 days ago.
Well, you know what, one thing that, you know, we've been talking about this whole time is that the fact that it's very difficult, look how difficult it is to see Nancy's front door. And this is from the street. This is the vantage point that you would get if you were walking by or if you were driving by. And then it's dark. This is a dark sky community. So there's ordinances in place here where, you know, they can't have their lights too bright. So even Nancy's, when I got out here at night, when we get here, you know, in the middle of the night, the lights that are on are incredibly dim. So you really can't see much at all in the entire neighborhood, not just on Nancy's house, but just in this entire neighborhood.